That's it, Zach. That's live.
There we go.
So let us.
We are live.
We have to do it every single time just to make sure.
Are we actually live?
Yeah, we're not live until we get a comment in there from someone.
I bet it's Jerome.
Yeah, I think we are live. We've gone live. See, even on our little post it says live there.
It's live. It's official.
Yeah. So who's going to be the first to join? Do you reckon?
Oh, I don't know.
We're going to sit back and wait for them.
Oh,
𝐓𝐫𝐸 the first to arrive. We can send 𝐓𝐫𝐸 a free buff.
Yeah.
𝐓𝐵𝐸's being a little bit.
There we go.
Stuart Taylor. What a ledge. I knew he wouldn't let us down. Whenever I'm in a crisis and I think I need help, Stu's my go-to guy.
He's the one, is he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, he helps keep my spirits up, which is important. Oh, Pritesh is here as well. Mario Gold, he's here. What a name, Mario Gold.
Mario.
It's classic.
That is.
Classic. Yeah, well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday Tune-In. As you can see, Andy is not here today, so we've promoted Zach to co-host.
Yeah,
it's good, isn't it?
It's good. Feels good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Andy is not there, so the Tune-In is on time. That's exactly right. See,
one made sure.
Yeah, one day we'll do like a behind-the-scenes like documentary, so everyone can see that. It'll be 4 minutes long.
Yeah,
because that's the prep. And at 12:29, Andy's like, "Oh, coffee." So that's normally what happens. Yeah, but Andy and Jen are actually taking, I would say, some well-deserved holiday time. Yeah, to spend time with the family and have a little time recuperating. Hey Ray, how's it going?
Hello.
So yeah, and me and Zach were sitting there and we were wondering about what we're actually going to talk about today. And you've heard me mention a few times that, you know, we went. I attempted 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬 one time in April last year, and I failed miserably. Zach made it. But then me and Zach both went back together again with Jen in December just gone. I'll be honest, the main purpose was for Jen to get her first taste of altitude and for me to get the summit that I missed out on. Yeah. And on reflection, we were like comparing the two times, and one of the things that we always talk about a lot was actually your first time doing it. And perhaps, I mean, it's one of my favorite films, the movie we made, The First Descent.
First Descent, yeah.
But what I don't think it does often is show kind of what's going on sort of between your ears. And, you know, what sort of mental struggles there are, what baggage you bring with you, how that can impact the trek, what a trek does to you once it's done, you know, what you're left with, and also, you know, your reflections on going back and doing it again the second time, and what differences it made. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about sort of the struggles and the peaks and troughs and overcoming mental challenges. So yeah,
definitely.
Your first time then, Zach?
My first time. Yeah, at altitude. Yeah.
No, not nothing else, just altitude.
Yeah, just altitude. Yeah. No, it was definitely an experience. Yeah. Because I had been going through, I guess, I was going through a bit of a rough patch at the time, to be honest, before I went on the trip. And so I didn't really have any real, I've talked a little about this before, but I didn't really have any real expectations when I went on the trip. Yeah. And it was, I definitely struggled, not just with the physicality of it, but I wasn't mentally prepared for it. Yeah. And that was completely my own doing. I just didn't really put the time and effort into making sure I was in like a really good, solid space. Yeah. Knowing my limitations, that was a big thing that I kind of found out later on. Yeah. And knowing sort of how far to push myself. Yeah. And so that had a bit of an effect on me afterwards, I would say. But yeah, I think it's a tricky one, really. It is.
I think in your defense, because you were kind of thrown in at the deep end a little bit last minute, and you were also working in a way. So you had a lot of, I guess, so the most people, and obviously this is some of the, you know, a little bit about the advice we're hopefully going to impart is I think that, you know, knowledge does dispel fear. Yeah. And So learning as much as you can to get your mindset in the right place is really important.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I think the physical training as well goes a long way to helping that.
Mm.
Now, I think you were clearly fit enough because you did it.
Yeah.
But you said you would have trained a little bit more just to be a little bit like, just to get the endurance up a little bit.
Yeah, get the endurance up, and then you can actually, the thing is, like, when you do that, you can, like, it's possible to do without so much, but you can't enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you're not gonna have a good time if you're puffing and panting the whole way. Which, you know, it's really important to get to that place where it's just like, right, because I think we found the second time when we went back.
Yeah.
I guess you can speak about this, but you were able to enjoy.
Oh yeah.
You know, just doing it, the journey, and you know, you were able to look around.
Yeah.
And just take everything in instead of just worrying about your health.
Yeah, that was a big one for me. I think the first time, obviously, these things happen whenever you travel around the world. At some point, you're going to have these grand plans to go and achieve something, and something's going to happen, and you're going to be, it's not going to happen. That happened to me in 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬, but you are right. And I think the difference could also be equated to like some degree of fitness. That the second time, I remember saying to you, I'm loving this. This is great.
Yeah.
Like I'm having a great time. And hills that I was going up, like so painfully on the first one, and just staring at the ground, not looking up, and just plodding along, and just praying for the hill to be over so I can rest. The second time I went there, it was a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was to perhaps do with the mental side and the training.
Yeah.
I talked about it in my video before I went, because it was interesting when we went back in December, because it was kind of under the radar. We didn't announce it. We didn't. We just went there, but we each had our own little thoughts. Like, you came back from your first one, like with a lot of sort of, I don't know. I'm hesitant to call it baggage, because I think it was a really positive experience overall.
Oh, yeah.
But like you said, you went in there, it was very physically demanding, you were totally exhausted, and when you come back, there's a process of rebuilding sometimes.
Yeah, and I think with that rebuilding, because I hadn't prepared myself, I wasn't quite sure how to rebuild myself.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. So that did have a knock-on effect, past that point. But yeah, the second time I made a conscious effort. It was kind of not one of the terms, shall we say, with me and my wife, Rachel. But because when I told her that you were going, and you were like, listen, Zach, I'm going to go to 𝐏𝐞𝐚 again. And I was like, not a chance. Not a chance. But then actually, with careful consideration and chatting with her, just thinking of the pros of it and what I could get from doing it the second time.
Yeah.
Actually doing the preparation for it and getting to that good place mentally, I could compare those two, and thankfully it worked out really well.
Yeah, no. This is why one of the reasons we wanted to talk about it was, one, basically to offer that advice of, before you take on a trip, particularly 𝐏𝐞𝐚, like Jerome has said there, mate, there's no such thing as chickening out. If the option you've chosen to do otherwise is the TMB, people underestimate the TMB. I'm telling you, it's a hard track. But yeah, it's one of those where we want to help you guys understand like the best way to kind of approach a trek from the beginning, and that is to kind of educate yourself a lot about what you're going to be experiencing. You want to avoid spoilers, fair, but and also a lot of the physical training. And they really did it was almost like a little test where we went out and you did it the first time with none of that. Yeah. And then you went out 7 or 8 months later with all of that. Yes. And the difference was night and day, I think. And I like that term, like the rebuilding, because I think treks can do that for you. You can, because a lot of people go on these treks because they want to overcome something like a physical or mental challenge. They want to take on something that they never thought they'd be able to do. I know I speak to and have spoken to hundreds of people, probably thousands actually, through Evertrek, who book the trek and then unload their concerns, like, oh, what if I don't make it? What if I get altitude sickness? What if I slow the group down? There's all that sort of stuff. And when they come back, they're always like, those are completely alleviated. And I honestly think that when you compare the two people, the person that went and all their anxieties and the person that come back, that rebuilding makes people far more robust and far stronger, I think. And then the next challenge then is not so doesn't seem so aggressive.
Yeah.
Because you've got that sort of knowledge, that background. You know you've been through the mill,
Right.
and you've come back stronger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly is the case for mine. Because I'll be honest, I was dreading 𝐓𝐶𝐞𝐤 the second time.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess you had kind of expectations of yourself, and you needed to get to that summit.
Yeah, and it's strange because like I remember talking to friends about it, and like initially I was like, is it ego that I just want to get to the top? And I realized it's not ego. I want to undo and rebuild.
Right.
Because I never felt like I did rebuild. I felt like I went there, everything went wrong, and I came back and I was left sort of distraught by it. And I didn't want 𝐓𝐶𝐞𝐤 to become my boogie mountain. You know,
Right,
I didn't.
yeah.
You know, I wanted to love the place.
Yeah.
For what, you know, and I didn't have fond memories of it really, because all my memories were about just feeling unwell and wanting to grind through it. So when I went back and I was able to like reach the summit with you, although the summit night itself was, I feel like there were several rebuilding stages just on that summit night.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy one. Like by no means. It was, I thought it was harder than the first time I did it.
Yeah.
From a physical standpoint, it was rough weather.
Yeah, no, I mean, rough, I remember obviously I only did about a third or half. I'm not sure where I quit on the first one.
Yeah, we did see the point.
We did see the point, and I thought I'd quit a lot sooner on than that. When we got to it the second time, maybe it just took us longer to get there because we went by a different route. But either way, I felt like the conditions that day on the mountain were perfect. You know, crampons never left your feet, which is what you want, really.
Yeah.
Where we had lots of mixed conditions, so we had like rocky marbles, we had ice, we had snow. Yeah. And it was one of those where the temperature, I think the wind chill took us down to about -25.
Yeah.
It was strange. Like we started the day, like I remember I only had like a base layer and like a gilet on.
Yeah.
And I was sweating because we were working hard. And then all of a sudden we got up onto this like open area and the wind hit, and the wind didn't stop for like 24 hours. And yeah, it is absolutely. Have we got Andy on? Yeah, I've just seen someone replying to Andy.
I saw Andy there. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Hey Andy, how's it going? He's probably. Have you got a pina colada yet? Or but yeah, and yeah, it was one of those where I remember thinking like, wow, this is like the most wintry conditions that I've ever trekked in.
It was cool. It was pretty wild.
It was fun. I mean, there were times I was like, man, am I too cold? like when you have to stop and take your crampons off and put them on and take them off and put them on again.
That was the trickiest thing.
Yeah, that was really hard. Rachel's on the live as well.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah,
we was just talking about.
We were just talking about you, Rachel. I would love to kind of hear like Rachel's perspective on it. You know, find out like what level of husband came back the first time compared to the second time.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, let us know, Rachel. Were you apprehensive when you went the second time? I can imagine you would have been.
For sure.
But yeah, but honestly, it's one of those things that like I love about trekking, and I mentioned it to you earlier, that where I think sometimes when things are perhaps not going 100, well, you don't even have to be going wrong, but sometimes people get a little bit either bored with their day-to-day, or they want a new challenge, or they want a break from what they're doing. I always find, and if you're watching this tuning, you're probably the same, where if you go away and you do like a beach holiday, although I do enjoy them and they are very nice, if what you're craving is something different, usually what you're doing, you're just putting those thoughts on hold while you're on the beach. You know, they're not really being dealt with.
Yeah.
And then when you come back, it's almost immediate. That's why people get the holiday blues, you know, because the holiday blues is coming back to exactly the same place you were before you left. When you go trekking, and I really felt this when I went to Everest Base Camp for the first time, I came back like almost like a renewed person.
Yeah.
You know, especially on the longer treks, like if you're doing the a 2-week one, I honestly think that you come back a completely different person to when you left. And I've seen it so many times over and over again, where people go away. And I remember a friend called Stuart, who me and Andy both trek with, and he went to Everest Base Camp with us. And I met up with him 6 months later to do Ben Nevis.
Right.
When I was talking to him, very similar story to kind of your journey, except your journey was spread over 2 short trips.
Right.
His was completed in 1 longer trip.
Okay.
And he said to me, like, before I went away, I think I was almost like on the cusp of a depression. I wasn't doing that well. And he's come back and he said it's completely like changed his brain chemistry and his thinking and his outlook on the world. And he said part of that was just the mountains, part of it was being in Nepal, part of it was just the Nepalese people and stuff like that.
There's a lot of factors. Yeah.
But yeah, and he said it was almost like a spiritual experience that a kind of non-spiritual person can appreciate.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so if you go through your day-to-day life and you're not, you know, religious, or you don't have any sort of wider sort of, you just, you know, what's in front of your nose is what you deal with. When you go to a place like that, I think the world can break through that barrier and you can kind of like be like, oh my God, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. It's probably the only time I've ever really felt like an impact like that, is being around like some of the biggest mountains in the world.
Right.
I swear they do have an energy. I swear they have an Carl!
Spiritual. There we go. The whole family.
This is the whole family, yeah. But yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I just seen Rachel's reply there as well. So it was a very big conversation going into the second time, very apprehensive. So glad it turned out well and that you were both able to make good memories out of a difficult first trip. Yeah. I think she's kind of hit it in a nutshell there, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
That rebuilding stuff is really important. Now you're going to put it to the test again with Kilimanjaro in a few months.
That's the plan. Yeah. I've heard that's a longer one, isn't it? That's 10 days. So yeah, that'll be interesting. See the difference between that. And a rough one on summit night, I hear.
It's all right. No, yeah, you'll love Kili.
Yeah.
Kilimanjaro is what I remember going to the adventure travel show back in when would it have been? 2019.
Yeah.
And we're meeting a couple of customers and we said, oh yeah, well, me and Andy, we're off to do Kilimanjaro. And one of them went, oh my God, it's amazing. Don't talk to me about summit night.
Look forward to that.
You know?
I'm really looking forward to that actually. And just I think one of the biggest things I loved about Morocco and 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤 was not just the trek, but you know, it's the experiencing new cultures, you know, new foods, new, you know, whatever that is. But there's something enriching for the soul about that. Yeah. That really makes the experience something different. Definitely. So I'm looking forward to that experience in another African country.
Yeah, no, it's amazing and totally different as well.
Yeah.
That's what's fantastic about Africa, is that every country you go to, there's something completely unique about it.
Yeah.
And the difference between Morocco and Tanzania is like they may as well be on opposite sides of the planet.
Yeah.
You know, it's fantastic. Yeah. What I absolutely love Tanzania is the people and their energy and the way they keep you going. It's a different experience to trekking in Nepal. It really is kind of like apples and oranges. The first thing is, like, I don't know, the atmosphere on the mountain is a bit more playful.
Right.
Like in Nepal, not that it's taken like overly seriously, and there certainly is like singing and dancing and having fun. But when you're walking in the Himalaya, there's something about like, I don't know, it's like wondrous.
Right.
When you're on Kilimanjaro, like you're on the biggest mountain you could possibly be on.
Right.
So the view is all like directly in front of you.
Sure.
And it's, you know, it's when you wake up in the morning, that's largely the same view to the end of the day. And but what makes it is like is the guides and the porters and the fact that they're singing, they're dancing. People are like, it's like some people are playing music, and not that it's all like that. Certainly, there's times for quiet reflection and enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite memories ever was when we climbed to the top of Barranca Wall. It's one of my favorite days.
Yeah.
You'll absolutely love it. And then we get up there, and it's just like this big ledge, and it just ends. But right at the end of it is just sky. You've seen the pictures of everyone's jumping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when we got up there, our guide 𝐏𝐸 started playing Long Tall Sally by Little Richard. And I was just like, so random. And I think if I remember right, it was a bit of a Little Richard playlist, because I think we had Lucille afterwards, you know, And I was just thinking like, Where else on the planet right now is someone having a similar experience to this? Probably nowhere. No. Absolutely. Like, yeah. That's what I loved about it. It was amazing. And Summit Night, yeah, there's no getting around it. Like, it's a
challenge.
It can be a well, it is a tough day.
Yeah.
But it's one day.
Oh yeah. No, I'm really looking forward to it. It's gonna be, I mean, because Jodie will do it too with me. So that'd be really cool. Yeah.
I heard you're gonna get Rachel, like you're gonna surprise her with a climb, right?
Well, not saying anything about that.
Yeah. Rachel's like gonna be texting you now. I've just noticed as well, there's a couple of messages from people on Twitch. This is why I love doing these. So I did notice Andrea. Let's have a look. She's hi from Zongler. Talking about mental strength. We just did Chola Pass today. What a beast.
Oh, wow.
If it wasn't for the guide and my teammate, I would have never got to the top. Oh, well done, Andrea. That's nice. An awesome achievement. You know, a lot of people talk to us about Chola. And they say that it's a beast.
Yeah.
It's like a serious one to get up there. Yeah. And then a good comment as well from Jerome. Knowledge dispels fear, but sometimes ignorance is bliss. I did Killy without really knowing what I'd let myself in for. Thoughts? I think it's another method for doing it.
Yeah. It could depend on the person, I guess, and how
ignorant they are.
What level of ignorance are we talking about?
I guess it does depend on the individual, because ignorance is bliss, and going into something just, not going to say unprepared, but kind of like oblivious to the sort of pitfalls can be good, because you're not going to focus on them. Yeah. You're not going to sort of dwell on what might be. You're just going to live day to day. It's almost like, rather than ignorance is bliss, I would say it's almost mindfulness. You know, just each day, this is what I'm dealing with today. I don't have to worry about tomorrow. Yeah. That's it. My problem is that I think my brain is slightly too anxious to allow me to get into that headspace. Right. Yeah. So the only way I can achieve it is by almost doing the opposite, which is just by like crazy research, looking into every little minutiae of the trip. Like Zach will tell you what I'm like before I go on a trip. Like, what was the pacing like in the office?
Oh yeah, you were just pacing around. I think you were looking at a shelf and you were kind of just moving some things around. It's like, Dave, we need to go now.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we'll go in a minute.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like I don't know what it is. It's like a nervous.
Yeah. No, I understand
energy
it fully.
Like particularly with 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤, because I didn't want to come back.
You had a lot,
But I'm like that before any trip though. It's like a coiled spring.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm anxious about it until I get there.
Yeah.
When I get there, I'm pretty relaxed. I tend not to have much anxiety when I'm on the mountain. Like I don't worry or stress about.
No. Yeah. I think I was similar in that way. It's always the build up. I think in any situation, not just tracks, but just it could be anything. But I'm always internally worrying. I wouldn't externally say. I'm worried. I think that's my biggest, not problem, but my biggest obstacle that I had to overcome sometimes is I don't always speak my mind. Yeah. And so that can have a bit of an effect on me in terms of anxiety and not vocalizing what I'm worried about, which I guess would be some advice from me would be to, if you are worried about things or don't know sort of how you're going to cope with things, is to talk to people about it, especially because you'll be in a group of people. Yeah. It's really people are there to support each other, and being in a team of people, it's just such a good support base. Yeah. Which I think as an introvert was one of the biggest worries that I had the first time going to 𝐏𝐞𝐚 was how I would mesh with people and not being the most vocal person. Yeah. That can be my struggle.
You see, I think from an outsider's perspective, I never see that in you.
Do you not?
Not at all. Like, I think I'm more introverted than you, weirdly. Ooh. Around people I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
I think you're actually pretty good at like just having conversation with people you've just met.
Right.
I'm less like that.
Okay. Yeah.
I've always said this to Andy. Because Andy, one of the strengths of him is that he can walk into a bar on his own and he'll not know anyone. And by the time he leaves, 3 people have signed up for 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬. Like he's got a trek lined up with that guy he just met over there.
Right.
Like we're left to my own devices. I'll just sit there staring into my pint for 4 hours and then leave on my own, But then once I get to know someone and I'm introduced, that's when I kind of relax. I think you're better at that than me in a lot of ways. Also, I don't know if any of you have ever done 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬, but the bedding is just like bunk beds and there's no division really. Each mattress butts up to the next one.
It's snug.
And we just put you between Tam and Doug, like the 2 Scots. And we were like, there you are, get to know the boys. Yeah, because Tam and Doug they're the most sweet guys ever. I think particularly Tam though can be quite scary.
Scary dude.
Yeah, like I think if you don't know Tam, and depending on who you are, maybe if you did know him, like he can be quite scary. I've just noticed Jane is on here as well. This is like a little family gathering for you, Zach. It's nice, isn't it?
It's because you know them nowadays.
Yeah, I know them now. Yeah. So I know a really good singing in a rhyme song you can sing at the top of the mountain. Needs at least 3 singers starting with "She'll be coming down the mountain. I hope she doesn't." Do you know that one? Like you're gonna have to learn it.
Yeah.
Talking of singing, actually, you and Andy did like I think it was probably just a relatively average Friday for you, but for Andy it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So you've been part of a choir for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Your mum's the head honcho.
Yeah.
It's quite a big one. Andy has been ever since I've known him. He's wanted to sing.
He was on his bucket list.
Yeah.
Which I was surprised about.
I know, because you could just go out and do it any day you wanted.
I guess so.
You could just go and busk.
Yeah, well,
but
yeah,
he wanted to sing in front of a live audience, which was his big thing.
Yeah,
and he's joined your choir.
He loves it.
I gotta be honest, it's really good. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was bigger and sort of more fun than I was expecting.
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting it to not be fun.
We need to get you roped in, Dave.
No, I can't sing, mate. Your mum said that, and I said as long as you listen, if you want to gradually wind it down and lose your audience 100%, but
tech team.
Yeah, but tech team, I told you, those little stands that hold the music?
Yeah. You listening, Jay?
I could do that all day, Jay. And if you need someone to collect the tickets, you want someone to pass around like a donation bucket, I'm your man.
You're the guy.
I've got a van with loads of space. I could fit orchestra members in there.
Orchestra in the
but no, I will say it's really, really good. And if you want to sign up to I'm plugging this for you now. I'm plugging this because I know Andy would appreciate it. The Cardiff 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬 Choir.
That's the one.
Cardiff 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬 Choir. Look it up on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. Sign up to it, and then come watch us.
Love that plug.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what were we talking about?
That is something I've got to work on. is the diversions and digressions that I get. Normally, like in a meeting, I've got Jen to kind of like say, Dave, that's great. Can we talk about that later? And then we'll bring it in.
But yes, overcoming mental challenges.
But
that is one thing, I guess. Singing does help.
Yeah, I certainly love to have a little, I think banter, singing.
You're good at the banter.
Any type of like bantering, I think helps take my mind off it and other people's.
Yeah.
So like one of my favorite things I've ever done was trekking with my friend John, and we were doing Everest Base Camp, and from Ffacting, I put a rock in the back, under it, with a bit where you at the bottom of some rucksacks there's a zip where you put like your rain cover. So when he put his bag down, I put a little rock in there, and I thought at the end of the trek he's gonna have so many rocks. He's gonna have 11 rocks in there now. And actually he sussed me out on going up to Memorial Hill, which is a big can't remember the name of the pass now, Douglas Pass.
Okay.
And he put his rucksack down. He's like, God, this is getting heavy. And I'm like,
hang on.
And then he opens it up and there's this mountain of rocks just fall out.
Oh, that is the worst.
And I was amused.
He wasn't.
But he wasn't. But I didn't give him anything I didn't think he could handle. But yeah, I reckon we should dive into some cues. What do you reckon?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
See what people are asking.
So first one we had in was from Stuart Taylor. I thought I was physically fit and ready to climb Kilimanjaro in August. Went to the altitude center last Monday and had a fantastic training consultation with Nick. When tested at 6,000 meters, it showed that I had a medium risk of suffering AMS. On Nick's advice, he said I should do some additional training to get me accustomed to the trek. at altitude. What would be our view? So what would your view be? Do the training and 100% be ready and deal with the possible headaches, nausea, and sickness that you would have got if you hadn't done the consultation? So what's he asking there? What
would be your view to do the training, be 100% ready
or not, and deal with? Okay,
yeah, and deal with
so I think so 100%. Whenever you're doing training, the goal is always try and get like 100% is the goal. And although all of our trips are possible without doing any type of pre-acclimatization, it certainly doesn't harm your chances of success. It also doesn't completely eliminate the chances of getting altitude sickness. I mean, we all suffer the symptoms of altitude when we go there. So everyone will be slightly short of breath. You may get a headache. You may lose your appetite. Sometimes you have a little bit trouble sleeping. Sometimes you might feel a little bit nauseous. All completely normal and expected, and it's something that we expect to deal with. I personally did Kilimanjaro without any sort of pre-acclimatizing. I just trained physically for it and did my research, and that's the same for Andy and all of the guys that we had on our trip. So I think to myself, there's absolutely no harm in it. 100% is the aim. The Altitude Center really know their stuff, and any additional training you can do will only help. So 100% keep it going. I guess that's kind of answered that for you. Lee Wyatt, what's your average pace per kilometer at altitude?
Gosh,
slow.
Pretty slow.
I don't really know, to be honest, Lee. I'd have to consult my previous Strava recordings.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're kind of doing. I would say slow is the answer. So when we're trekking at altitude, we want to be as slow as possible, and we want to try and acclimatize as gradually as possible. So we take a long time to get from A to B. And for instance, with the Everest Base Camp, it's 8 days to get to base camp and only 3 days to come down. So that highlights, we divide 3 days into 8 on the way up. I would say, if you're walking at the same pace you do at sea level, you're going to want to slow it down and look after yourself, because you're not going to acclimatize as well as if you're going a lot slower. Awesome, Zach. You want to take one?
I'm just looking at this one on here. For you, Dave, why was 2Cal worse for you than Kilimanjaro?
Interesting question.
Yeah. Was it worse?
Do you know what? It's the first one, but the reason why the first trip was tougher for me than Kilimanjaro was because I wasn't very well. So I picked up a sinus infection, something I deal with on a fairly regular basis. Whenever I get a cold, I get one. And it just so happened that I had a really bad one before I went to 2Cal. So on my way to the airport with Andy, I stopped off, picked up antibiotics. So that's how soon I was taking them. And I just assumed that if I took the antibiotics that I would be okay to carry on. I didn't anticipate that the antibiotics themselves would have such an effect on my energy. So as soon as I started trekking, I found that it was like I was redlining straight away. So I couldn't warm up. I was constantly out of breath. But the real thing is I just felt constantly exhausted. So whenever I was going up any steep incline, I would just overexert and overheat immediately. And then what happened was, because it was like nearly 40 degrees, was I got heat exhaustion. And I didn't know what that was because I'd never had it before. So when I arrived at the refuge, I noticed that I was just shivering constantly, and I couldn't do much about it. I didn't want to quit without trying. So even though I didn't sleep and I felt terrible and I was still shivering, I woke up and I thought, I'll go have a go at the summit. And I got, however far I got up, realized that it was, borderline dangerous for me to continue. So I made the call to go back. Sometimes you've got to do it. That's one thing I would say to everyone should have in the back of their mind, is that the mountain isn't going anywhere. It's more important that you come back down. And that's it. And then the second time I went, I really loved it, and it was an amazing time. Kili's tough, man. I would say they're both. Kili is harder because I think the sleep deprivation. So you're awake for a much longer time. but 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬's, I think, steeper for most of the ascent. It's tricky. The only way I can answer it properly, Carl, is you're gonna have to book them and let me know your opinion. Andy has just put one in here. Great answer to Stuart. What was Stuart's question again? Oh yeah, about the training. Yeah. Always good to get the head yeti's opinion as well. So my 2 pence worth, this is Andy, is to try not to feel too disheartened with the results of the altitude center. The results are based on your body at the time. That's not just the fitness, but how your body is hydrated. That can give false results. My advice is to be as fit as you can, go slow, drink plenty of water, and try to enjoy yourself. Acclimatization can suck, but you can do it, mate. 100%. I agree. I agree with Andy there. Like, what you're getting when they give you almost like a number or a result, it's based on how you are exactly at that time. So you haven't pre-acclimatized. You're not acclimatized right now. You're living at sea level, and then they're taking you to 6,000 meters and seeing how your body goes, and it's a really good indicator. But in reality, that's not how we do it. In reality, we go gradually up, 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 and it can take a long time, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days to get to 6,000 meters, by which time you have adjusted over those days. So your body's in a different position. So 100% agree what Andy said. It's an indication, it's not a guarantee. And what he said there, go slow, drink water, and enjoy yourself. 3 main things to do with any trek, I would say. Let's have a quick look.
There's a good one here, but from Kate. Thinking about Mount 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬, is 8-day trek more demanding in terms of endurance compared to the weekender, or the opposite? I've chosen 8 days trek to be able to spend more time in the mountains, to really feel it, and also to hike second summit. Am I right? I would, yeah. I mean, because the real challenge of doing the shorter one, the weekender, is coming down for me. Because it's that final. It's a long, it's a long trek back, to be fair. But yeah, the 8 days, just spending much more time, in the mountains, as you said, it's so much better in my opinion. Much more enjoyable to take things in and just be able to stop, and it doesn't feel as rushed. But I definitely say that the 8 days is less demanding in my opinion. What would you say, Dave?
Yeah, I would say so. I think you're right. I've not done the 8-day, but I've spoken to our guides about it, and essentially it's a more one, you've got more time to acclimatize. The summit is always going to be from the refuge to the summit and back to the refuge, so it doesn't shorten the summit day, but you take a little bit of a more time to get there. It's more meandering and around. You see some lake, which sometimes is frozen in the winter, but apparently is beautiful in the summer. So yeah, it is less demanding. It's less intense, I think, is the issue. I think intense is a word that I think is fair to describe the 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬 weekender.
Definitely.
And it takes that intensity out of the equation, so you kind of have more of a relaxed journey to the summit. However, the summit itself is the same summit attempt that you do on the 4-day, so you do get the full experience. You just have a little bit more time to accustom yourself to that. Your old man has come up with an amazing name. This is his name. Could I be your spiritual chaplain mindfully, Rev Tracker on your journeys? He is now the Rev Tracker.
Rev Tracker. There we go. That's your Yeti name, Carl.
He's the Yeti name. That is his Yeti name. And 100% he can be my spiritual chaplain.
There we go.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, that's a good one.
Rev Tracker.
That's a good one.
Love it. There's a lot of people as well talking about Coca-Cola goes a long way when you're feeling knackered. Some people talking about things to kind of keep your spirits up. But it's amazing. What I always have a bottle of Coke at the end of a trekking day.
Oh yeah, I think because we had one on the. I remember that actually. And that was.
I don't know why, it's a little routine because I don't really drink full fat Coke a lot.
No.
So when I'm trekking, it's like a treat.
Bit of a treat.
And at the end of every trek day, 100% full fat Coke.
Refreshing.
And cola bottles. Haribo Tangtastics are a favorite.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that flavor much in most of your food. That fizzy, tangy sweets.
Yeah. Just get the sugar in. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it can make a huge difference. Oh, I like this. Your old man is cracking me up here. Jane's the head of the choir, but I'm the neck that turns it. So I think what he's saying there is he the power behind the throne?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah. That's I think Jane's going to be having a word.
Yeah. Let's stay out of that, I think.
Carl Coventry has asked, did you use double-line boots for 𝐓𝐫𝐽? Could you hire the crampon-rated boots, 𝐼SACs and crampons there? Actually, no. And here's a little bit of learned advice that we've had.
Oh, yes.
So you don't need double-line boots or anything for 𝐓𝐫𝐽. What I would recommend if you're doing it in the winter is you do get some boots that are rated to like Scottish winter mountaineering boots.
Yeah.
Because me and Zach both have the same boots. Actually, you bought them. We're the same foot size. You said they were great, so I bought them.
Yeah.
But really, they're summer boots.
Yeah.
But I wanted to wear them because they were so comfortable. And I got so used to them that when I put my other boots on, I was like, oh, they don't feel right now. So I thought it wasn't that cold outside the refuge, so we thought it'd be okay just to wear the boots that we brought.
Yeah.
And actually, I would say it was a bit cold.
A little bit chilly on the toes, I would say.
I would say that weather's not typical, but because we had a bit of a tail end of a storm or the beginning of one. But I would still say that I wouldn't take the risk again, and I would bring warmer boots. Like Mayndal Boutans would have been perfect.
Yeah.
We had the Mayndal Tonales, which if you look them up are really a lightweight boot. I should have bought the Boutans.
Yeah.
So yeah, get some good warm trekking boots. You don't need B2s or C2s. You can use a regular trekking crampon, so a C1. Yeah, you can hire the crampons, 𝐼SACs, and all of that stuff from our team over there. So yeah. You don't have to worry about that. But you don't think of it as like climbing like a high Himalayan peak where you see those double line boots. You can wear them if you want. I would say they're overkill for 𝐓𝐶𝐽 because there's nothing technical happening there. The majority of the time the temperature doesn't drop so low that you would need double lined. Like we had summer boots and it was really cold, but we didn't need double lined. We would have probably been okay with just a normal leather hiking boot. That type of thing.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Definitely.
Yeah. I've just noticed one that's come through here from Daniela. Hey guys, I asked the other day, but don't think it went through. Apologies. I'm waiting on a spine op, but can manage my hikes now on meds. What's the pace like on the EBC trip? So yeah, so with regards to the spine op, hopefully that's going to go okay for you when you're doing well. If you are able to trek right now and all you need is some painkillers in order to get through the day, I would say you could do EBC. The pace, as I said, is very gentle. With Everest Base Camp, we're not about sort of going from A to B as quickly as we can. We want to go as gradually as we can. That said, it is quite a difficult and challenging trip, and it is 11 days on the trot of hiking, with the last 3 being the longest in terms of the amount of hours you're trekking in one day and the distance. So I think the first thing to do is do a kind of like stress test. So if I were you, I would go out and I would perhaps do 5 hours hiking, maybe 3 or 4 days in a row, and see what you'll like after that. After sort of 4 or 5 days of 5-hour hikes in a row, if you're really struggling and walking's difficult, then I would perhaps, look at what we can do to improve that condition to get you to EBC. But yeah, that's what I would do. I would stress test it. Did a similar thing with my knee when I had a knee op, which was I wanted to go out and do certain hikes and stuff, but I had to kind of see how it would fare before I got there. So going out and just doing that would be okay. But in terms of the pace, absolutely fine. I think it's amazing actually that when people are going through something like a spine operation or difficulties, that they still think, I'm not going to just like live a gentle life now. No. I'm still going to go out for those thrills and do those amazing things like trekking to EBC. So Daniela, you 100% have my support, and let me tell you, if it's possible to get you to base camp, we will get you there. That's a promise.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you want to take one?
Yes. I'm just looking through. See. Look at those. Double boots.
So we might have to scroll.
Yeah, might have to scroll up a bit.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if we missed any, but guys, if you do have a question, don't hesitate to fire one in.
Time taken climbing Kili helps massively with the acclimatization. The advice given by the Yetis is gold. Hydration, Diamox and Pole is the way forward.
Pole.
Pole.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. Yeah.
Pole.
Pole.
Is that?
That is. It's like
Oh, I've missed that.
You know,
Pole.
Steve calls it chugga chugga.
Right.
Which
okay.
is
so it's
gentle.
Pole.
In Nepalese, it's bastari bastari.
Oh, okay. I've not heard that. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm gonna use that now.
Essentially,
Pole,
it's
pole.
like it. Just to like carry on from Daniela, that's like, you know, one of the things that we do. It's like, okay, we're going to start now, but pole, which just means gentle,
right, nice.
Slow, take it easy.
I like that, yeah.
Bastari is like, whoa, slow down. So that's what you'll hear a lot.
Oh, nice.
And then you'll hear like jam jam.
Jam jam.
Yeah, or like zam zam jam jam. It's like jam jam, which is like the Nepalese way of saying get off your ass. We're moving.
Get a move on.
It's like in Morocco, it's yalla.
Yeah.
You know, which is like
like
it's right. Let's get cracking.
Okay.
I've forgotten what the Tanzanian one is. Maybe one of the guys who's been there can let me know what the Tanzanians say.
I had no idea. Yeah, that's cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, well, you need to read the blog I wrote. The I think it's like the FAQs or the cheat sheets or something for Tanzania.
Yeah.
Where I actually do some words that you can translate.
There we go.
Yeah. There is one you'll definitely know.
Yeah.
Hakuna Matata. Do you know what it means?
No worries or something like that.
For the rest of your days.
For the rest of your days, yeah.
Yeah.
I won't carry on.
It's like a problem-free philosophy.
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah. Awesome. So we've got one in you if you want to take it.
Yeah, from Ray.
Yeah.
Is walking faster over a short distance an advantage on EBC rather than slower to extend exposure time? Interesting. Is walking faster over a shorter distance an advantage on EBC? What would you say? Because I've not done EBC.
Yeah, I would say no. Purely because you can't avoid the exposure to altitude. That's your environment.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. Like, you know, is you know, instead of taking like such a long time to walk from A to B, if you just did it quickly and then stop, does that help you adjust? I think that's what you mean, Ray. And the answer is not really. The best way to adjust to altitude is to gain that altitude gradually. And so the only way to do that effectively is to go slow. So if you jump like that really quickly, so let's just say you did the EBC trip, but instead of walking, you went up on the back of a helicopter and you just went day 1, day 2, day 3, you would get very quick very soon because your body hasn't had the hours to help acclimatize. The way I liken it sometimes is, you know, it can say you take 5 hours to get from A to B, and then I take 8 hours. Well, I've had 3 hours more time during the day to acclimatize to that increase in altitude than you have. And then if you do the same the next day, well, I've had 6 hours more adjusting to the altitude. And then the next day, 9 hours more. And if you think the 9 hours doesn't make much difference, then try going a day without sleep. You know, like those hours do accumulate and they do make a big difference. So yeah, my advice is the mountain rules are tried and tested, and it's the way we run our trips. What Andy said earlier, go slow, drink plenty of water, enjoy yourself. They're the 3 key things. I'd probably add eating can be difficult with altitude, but try and force as much down as you can.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Carl's agreeing with that, I guess. Yeah, going fast is not out. Had to get into trouble. So too many people thinking it was better pole. Slowly.
Yeah, so, mate, you're going to be like an old hand on Tanzania now.
There we go.
Jerome said, Dave, you jumped to altitude when flying to 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬. I just had a notification. Some get hammered by that alone. Yeah, it's entirely possible. I mean, this is one of the things. There's no way to completely alleviate any risks associated with going to high altitude. And it's rare, I would say, but a few people, they land at 𝐏𝐞𝐚, and if they hang around there, they won't feel too great.
Right.
I suppose there's no other way of doing it, though, because I had a question fairly recently, which was someone was asking me about 𝐓𝐶𝐞𝐬, and they were asking me about how does Summit in 𝐓𝐶𝐞𝐬 gel with the NHS guidance for gaining altitude. You know, the NHS guidance doesn't factor in that you're climbing a mountain. It's just what's best for the body. In a vacuum or in like a test scenario. You know, but the refuge to the summit of 𝐓𝐶𝐞𝐬 is, you know, just shy of 1,000 meters, like 900 odd meters, which is way more than you're ever supposed to go up in one go. But we have to because we're climbing a mountain. So, and it's like the same with 𝐏𝐶𝐚, like getting to that altitude. So 1,300 meters to 2.7 is a big jump. But it's what we got to do, and we have to try and adjust for that and account for that. One of the things that we can talk about, which can help, is, and again, this is all about that knowledge to spell in the fear, is that if you arrive at 𝐏𝐞𝐚 and you're normally there for a couple of hours while the team prep and you start to feel unwell, that's probably where I jump on Diamox right there and then. I just take half a pill of Diamox, and that would probably be enough to kind of help you adjust. The good thing is when you arrive at 𝐏𝐶𝐚 as well, facting's lower than 𝐏𝐶𝐚. Right. So you're going to be walking for 3.5 to 4.5 hours to facting, and when you go to bed, you're going to be lower than you are in 𝐏𝐶𝐚, which gels with the climb high, sleep low scenario. Right. So by the time you wake up, you should be relatively adjusted. Yeah. To the altitude at that point. Yeah.
It is interesting how altitude works, because I think from my experience with doing 𝐓𝐫𝐾𝐽 twice, because I know Jen, who was with us on the trip, she was affected
definitely
by the altitude. She wasn't very well at the time, but I think because the first time that I did it, I didn't have any altitude problems whatsoever. But going back the second time, I might not have said it actually, but I actually did. There was something that was affecting me, whether breathlessness and slight headaches. No idea why it affected me the second time. Yeah. No idea, what that's about. But I just thought it was really interesting how it can affect the body in different ways.
No, yeah.
States of fitness, I guess, can where you are.
Yeah. It can be anything. Like you can have something like something you picked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we probably all pick up things like that don't manifest even to as bad as a cold. But you ever had that where for a day or two you're just firing on all cylinders? Yeah. That happens when you go to altitude. You can be rough for a couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's remarkable, because the second time I definitely felt the altitude the first time. Second time I don't think I did really until we were basically approaching the summit.
Right.
When it was 10 steps, have a break, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But it does strange. So I've done EBC 4 times and never once took Diamox or thought I needed to. I would say almost very negligible. Like I wouldn't even go as far as to say negative symptoms, just signs of altitude, like a little bit of breathlessness.
Yeah.
And then when I went on Kilimanjaro, not even at the summit, like I've been higher at this point on previous trips, but like 4,000 meters, I think it was, and I just needed to jump on the old Diamox.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I do as well, is we all should do, is some people, they don't want to take Diamox.
Right.
And I think you've got a money spider just hanging above your head.
Oh no.
I'm gonna get it for you. Look.
Get the spider.
Oh, right, it is on my hat now.
Oh no.
There's not much to do there.
There we go.
There, do you see him go? Yeah, he's gone, yeah. It was literally just lowering itself on just in the corner of my eye. I was like, yeah. It's to not, don't have any sort of preconceptions about whether you will or whether you won't. Right. To me, it's no different than taking an ibuprofen if you've pulled a muscle, or having a paracetamol if you've got a headache, or I even liken it to some people wear nose clip when they go swimming, some people don't. The water's bothering you, you do. Yeah, the altitude's bothering you, take some form of prophylactic to stop it. So yeah.
Oh, 𝐏𝐞𝐚 state Diamox, doing the South track with my son that goes up to 4,600 meters. Never been to altitude before, so hoping he will be okay. What do you think of that?
I'm not aware of any reason why you wouldn't be able to.
No.
My advice, Sophie, is to go to a travel clinic like Nomad.
Yeah.
And talk to those specialists about it. You can go to your GP as well, but they're not always fully trained or fully, up to date with what it means to trek at altitude. And Diamox wasn't developed for high altitude trekking and climbing. It was developed for glaucoma and epilepsy. So when you talk to a doctor about it, they don't always associate, you need this to go to altitude. You don't have the cause that it was invented for. But if you go to a travel clinic, they completely know that it's more widely used now for high altitude trekking and climbing. So I 100% think that it can be used. There are alternatives as well. Apparently there's one called 𝐏𝐞𝐚𝐤𝐬. I always call it 𝐏𝐞𝐫𝐨𝐿𝐴 or Bilboa. which is like a natural remedy, which is supposed to help. There is also a vitamin called Altivit that you can actually buy from the Altitude Center, which is a vitamin designed to kind of give your body what it needs in order to function well at altitude. So there's lots of things you can do, but 100% I think 𝐷IAMOX is certainly the most powerful tool for someone who is struggling. Talk to a travel clinic about it, get their advice, and follow their advice. That's my advice.
Carl's saying, certainly test it on your body before you go, just to see how it reacts. I guess, if you have a bad reaction. But Jerome's saying that aspirin can help as well, but obviously not as effective.
Yeah, so there's a couple of schools of thought on this. Well, we could do a whole one about altitude. But there is a thought that aspirin helps thin the blood, and your blood gets thicker as you go to altitude. But that process takes about a month. So aspirin is effective more at relieving the headaches and things like that. But 100% what Carl just said and what you agreed with was really good, which is just take, get a prescription. They normally give you way more than you need, and just take one before you go. This is good advice for anyone really, not just a younger person, but if you just take one before you go, if you have an adverse reaction to it, at least you're home. And you know that, okay, that's 𝐷IAMOX done. It can be a little bit annoying, the side effects, so you get pins and needles in your lips and nose and stuff like that.
Really?
It's a bit annoying. But certainly not as annoying as altitude sickness.
For sure.
But awesome. Anyway, back to sort of like the peaks and troughs. So we've covered quite a few there, and instances about where perhaps we've struggled. I think it is interesting when you go on these trips. A lot of what you get out depends on kind of what you bring with you to these trips. I do believe that adventure and living an adventurous lifestyle, even if you're not going to EBC, is really good for the body and mind, I think, and I honestly think you're a testament to that, because like before you started working with 𝐓𝐫𝐺, you didn't really do any like mountaineering or trekking or anything like that. But Andy will say it and I'll say it as well. I reckon there's a noticeable difference in you, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is. But it's definitely more of like a confidence and stuff like that you get. From going, from doing that type of thing.
That's interesting. I've not really thought about it, that sort of what difference it's made to me personally. But I think confidence is, I guess, a massive thing for me. Just conquering that summit. It is really interesting. What would you say? So, I guess, just to give people sort of some form of advice from this, from our point of view and what we've been through, what would you say was the best thing for you coping with, say if you had any mental health concerns or worried about getting to that point? Because I know for me, having certain coping mechanisms really helped me. Especially, I think it was you that suggested this on the second time we went, but having sort of goals in mind. So not just, you get into the summit, even if it's just like that rock over there, I'm going to get to that point, I'm going to stop, rest, reevaluate, and then I'm going to keep going, find another point. Because I think it was you that suggested that, and that was a massive help to me. It sounds really simple now, but just things like that, they just make a huge difference.
No, it is, and I think if you do, it's a good point. If you are on a trek and you do find yourself struggling, it's sometimes quite difficult when you're in an unfamiliar environment doing an unfamiliar thing to be able to slow down your mind enough to be able to rationalize and control your thoughts that are perhaps getting carried away. So I think that is a big tool that I've kind of used, is that you kind of have to take the reins of it. And if you give yourself a huge task to do, it's harder. So if you take the reins and say, okay, I'm just going to get to the summit, like deep down, that's 6 hours away. And I'm worrying right now. So a much easier thing for me to be able to do is to say, do you know what, I'm just going to focus on getting to that point there. And it's arbitrary how far away it is. Okay, that I know I'm going that way and I just want to get to that rock, so that's what I'm going to do. And you break it down, and then when you get there, then you stop, you take a breather, you reassess, you look at the look ahead of you and then you pick another point.
Yeah.
And it's giving your mind smaller, bite-sized, achievable things to be able to do.
You can tick that off.
Yeah. And another thing I tell myself is that it's almost like teaching a kid to ride a bike, you know, is you run along with your hand on them, and that's me saying, okay, just get to there. And then when I get there, I say, you see, I did it.
Yeah.
Like nothing happened. It was okay. And that's like taking the hand off, you know, and like freewheeling. And it's a way I have managed it a lot, you know, in life. Another thing I do, and this is perhaps unique to my coping method, is I'll almost save things up to think about.
Okay.
Like that aren't related to what I'm doing.
Right.
So I love trekking, and I think about it all the time. But if I am struggling up a hill, or I'm starting to have negative thoughts about, oh God, why am I doing this? Like I'll have a topic that maybe I saved, like what suspension fork shall I get for my mountain bike? I'll just dwell on that for 10 minutes, you know, like, and it's strange. And it's like putting a podcast on when I haven't got one to listen to.
Right, yeah.
You know, and it's like, I swear I have, like, at the beginning of a trek, I've thought, no, don't think about that yet. Like, save that thought for a later day.
Yeah, that is good. I think, another thing that I just remembered that I did this, it took a little bit of effort, so basically what I did on the second time, found really useful, was journaling.
Yeah.
Whether that's, you know, writing down or recording, you know, a video diary at the end of the day. It did take a fair amount of effort because you're knackered and you just want to lie down, do nothing. But just noting down my thoughts, feelings, how I felt, my worries of what to come, you just get everything out there.
Yeah.
And that was just, it did me a lot of good, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. It's huge because, like you said, especially if you're the type that perhaps doesn't necessarily vocalize a lot of your worries, you know, they do just sit between your ears, festering for days on end. And I remember you writing down a lot and doing stuff, and I'm thinking, I wish I could do that. But I honestly think that I get bored writing, but doing the video diary actually helped.
Yeah, of course you did. Yeah.
So awesome. Well, I think that's come to the end of it now, guys. And hopefully that's been helpful. We wanted to touch on something that me and Zach have talked about a lot, you know, particularly on our last trip. And it is important and something that I'm sure every single person, whether you want to trek or not, is going to sort of experience. So, any last thoughts?
Oh, not really. Just go out there and, you know, take on the challenge, whatever that is. And, you know, just know your mind and body.
Awesome. We'll finish on that. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday. I believe the head Yeti himself is back then. I think he's back on Tuesday. Or is he back on Wednesday?
No, he's not.
He's not, is he?
I think it's Rosie.
It's Rosie next week. I thought that was the week after. Anyway.
I don't know, that could be wrong.
I'll be here with...
Someone will be here.
Like, you can edit that in, right? So me and we'll be back here next Tuesday. Take it easy, guys. Bye.
See ya.